I've been really on my own when I think about it. Yeah, my house is not a home when I think about it. I've been feeling so alone when I think about it. Yeah, nobody really got me when I think about it.
We back with some more Family Guy. This time we got the complete Herbert Family Guy timeline. Let's jump up in it.
After diving into the timelines of Peter, Brian, Stewie and Meg, I asked you all to vote on the next Family Guy character. And you guys all chose Herbert the pervert. Look, I only put him there as a joke and I didn't expect you to actually pick him. But nevertheless, I am a woman of my word. So here's the timeline of John Herbert. I can't believe I'm actually doing this. So let's get this out of the way first. Herb is a gross pervert who is irredeemable.
You know, if you get sweaty and want to take your shirt off, that'd be just fine.
But it's a Family Guy cartoon character and it's not supposed to be taken seriously. So now we've cleansed ourselves slightly, let's take a look at how the Family Guy staff came up with this creepy character. John Herbert was created by writer and voice actor Mike Henry, and he based Herbert's voice on an elderly man he met while working at a grocery store in high school.
And this one guy had a little whistle, and so I just kind of ramped up his voice.
His early life. Herbert bravely served as a World War II fighter pilot in the Air Force, and during one particular battle, he was shot out of the sky and captured by the Germans. Seeing that his wallet contained pictures of boys, they thought he was gay and took him to a concentration camp, forcing him to do terrible things, like recycling.
It would spill out of my hands and make them kind of sticky.
Years later, Herbert will meet his tormentor, SS Lieutenant Franz, but we'll dive into that a bit later on in the video. In the episode Family Guy Through the Years, a younger Herbert knocks on the Griffin's door and announces he's just moved into town. He introduced himself as Herbert and not Roy Mitchell, who was accused of doing all kinds of terrible things 3 towns over.
Because again, I'm Herbert.
So yeah, Herbert isn't his real name, faking his identity to escape law enforcement.
What? Bro, what? See, every time, bro, I learn something new every time. I gotta go back and watch all these episodes because I did not know that. That's crazy.
Although this is considered as a non-canon episode, I wouldn't be surprised if this is how he introduced himself to the Griffins in the real-life timeline. Herbert's present day. So how do I talk about this problematic character without getting demonetized? Honestly, I can't say certain words, but you know the deal with Herbert now.
I hope you don't find the money strapped to my thigh.
Basically, he's a creepy old man who lives on Spooner Street and he has a particular interest in boys. His first proper appearance in the show was in Season 3's episode To Love and Die in Dixie, and Chris first met Herb during his paper round.
Get your fat ass back here.
The creepy old man was instantly taken with the 13-year-old boy and tries tempting him into his house with the promise of lollipops.
And you need to come on down to the cellar. I got a whole freezer full of popsicles.
And while Chris only sees Herb as a kindly old man, the truth is, of course, a lot more sinister. When Chris failed to deliver his papers due to being out of town, John left several creepy messages on the Griffin's answering machine.
Thinking about the muscle-down paper boy.
Along with his partly paralyzed pup Jesse, the duo continued to make sporadic appearances in the show, mostly popping in to say a creepy line or two.
Make sure you stretch out those creamy hamstrings.
And his actions speak as loudly as his creepy words when we observe him attempting to buy an ice cream van just to entice children to him. As the oldest living person in Quahog, Herbert is the highest ranking member of the Skulls and Bones Secret Society, which is basically a group of elite members, including Carter Pewterschmidt. As leader, John abuses his power by sleeping with members as part of an initiation, and it seems like his prayers are answered when Chris finally joins the group. Luckily, he left the group rather quickly, which is good news for Chris, but bad news for Carter.
You better get your ass in that closet, Pewter Schmidt.
Yes, sir.
It seems that the one individual who sees Herbert for who he truly is Stewie Griffin, calling him out when Herbert asked him into his house.
That's a mighty full sack you're carrying.
Piss off, you perverted old freak.
Observant Stewie then spotted Herbert hitching a ride under the school bus and called him out again. But two people who didn't get the Herbert is a pervert memo are Lois and Peter, asking him to babysit their kids while they go out of town. So now unsupervised and in a house of minors, he takes the opportunity to ask for a sponge bath, only to be bathed by Meg.
Oh, rats!
It even enlightens Chris on his not so innocent behavior when read a suggestive bedtime story. John is just obsessed with Chris, even asking God to let him smell his hat.
Now I want more.
As well as dreaming of living a utopian suburban life with the boy. And his dreams would come true when Chris came a knocking one day and asked to stay with him after he fought with his sister. Finally, now sleeping in the same room together, John takes the opportunity to quietly move his bed closer to Chris's, all whilst explaining a loosely veiled metaphor of squeezing into a tight baseball glove. But luckily, Chris lets one rip and spoils the mood completely.
You really know how to waste a Cialis, don't you?
Gradually growing into a strange married couple, the boy starts irritating Herbert when Chris becomes a slob and messes up John's tape collection. It seems that his strange affection for the boy couldn't make up for how annoying a sloppy teen is, eventually asking Chris to go back home. This revelation devastates Herbert deeply, crying off to his other pervert friend.
We broke up!
But as we all know, love is complicated, and John still remains obsessed with Chris, and perhaps prefers him as the boy next door. His craving even pushes him to recruit his grandniece to live out his romantic Chris fantasies, with a particularly special request.
If I gave you a sandwich, do you think you could get Chris to fart on it?
What?
Herbert doesn't show his affections in complete secret. There have been times where he hasn't sneaked around at all, dropping all pretenses in desperate need. This happened in the episode April in Quahog, when the townsfolk are fooled into thinking that the world was ending.
Seems like I've run out of waiting time.
Another time when the government is disbanded, in the episode T. Peter, John straight out kicks open their door and abducts Chris.
Hey, yo!
Although retired, Herb volunteers as a firefighter, and when the Griffin's house caught on fire, Herb rushed in to save Chris, who was stuck inside, but then carried him straight over into his house. And you know what? I don't think he's even a firefighter. I think he just has the costume. Herbert, the war veteran. As a war veteran, Herbert takes pride in his service by singing at the Veterans Parade. However, his past would come back to haunt him in the form of his old abuser, SS officer Franz Gutentag. He made a living making puppets and on the surface seemed like a kindly old man. He made friends with Chris.
That would make sense. So he was abused. So he tries to abuse other kids. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. I didn't know Family Guy got that dark and deep at the same time. Like, that's some emotional trauma for your ass right there, man.
Which of course made Herbert insanely jealous. But when Chris discovered Fran's dark secret, he locked him up in his basement, and it was up to Herbert to save him. Dressing up in his old uniform, the two enemies fought toe-to-toe in a clash of the ages. Herb managed to get the upper hand, vanquishing his abuser, which was sweet revenge after getting his hands sticky several decades ago. One extremely strange thing that we learnt about Herbert was in season 17, and it was that he was able to revive and regrow himself if ever he died. In the episode Con Aires, Herbert mistook Peter for being a teenage boy and hired him to mow his lawn. But when Chris grew jealous of the attention Herb was giving Peter, the two fought, which absolutely delighted Herbert. But then when he found out Peter was actually Chris's dad, he explodes.
Well, he often said he wanted to explode all over me. He finally did.
Jesse then plants John in a pot and he sprouts up just like Groot.
I am Herbert!
So yeah, it looks like Herbert is immortal, which is bad news for the rest and the future kids of Spooner Street. Unlike a show like The Simpsons, where the background characters get more fleshed out and developed, you can't really do that with a character like John. And I feel that's for the best. Mr. Herbert is best used in small doses. And that's very small. And so that completes the timeline of John Herbert.
Damn, that's crazy, man. I love these. I love just, hearing about things that I never knew. I love the backstories and it just gives me a better appreciation, man. But if you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button for me. Thank you guys for commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.